All right, and welcome back to the balance. Drop number 3, our final drop for today. Keep in mind that tomorrow we're going to catch up with Josh Elmore, our resident bracketologist, is going to help us catch up with the March Madness. Steve Wilson, who's going to join us here in just a second, of Speedway Digest and digest.com, and our official NASCAR contributor. He's down in Martinsville. We're going to be talking about that. But he's number one in our bracket, man. So when we talk tomorrow with Josh Elmore on that, and then our big board continues on as we get our draft board together with Adam Jividen, Super Browns fan, Buckeyes fan, Guardians fan. Great pronosticator, our college football partner in crime. So all that's tomorrow, but hopefully you've had a chance to catch up with our two drops today. We started off with Tony Donahue, the Tony D podcast and Unverified. They were on the road down to Alabama. They stopped at a Chick-fil-A and caught up with me, and we talked everything what's going on with Alabama. And we began our conversation with IndyCar drivers to watch, and then in the last drop that we just did. Hopefully, you've had a chance to listen to that. Derek Vance from the Push to Pass podcast jumps on, and we are continuing our conversation about IndyCar drivers to watch, and we'll be down there covering it with Speedway Digest, who joins us now. Steve Wilson of Speedway Digest, our official NASCAR contributor. Steve, you're down in Martinsville. How's the weather down in Martinsville?
Well, it's a lot better today than it was yesterday with all the rain, so hopefully that's all gone.
I tell you what, it's been a crazy weather pattern for spring. We had rain, we had snow, we had cold, we had a little frost this morning. Now the sun's back out. So, and the old saying in Indiana, if you don't like the weather, stick around 5 minutes. It's going to change on you. Well, let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about with our NASCAR segment here, and I want to start off with. I guess I feel like I'm very disappointed that this happened, but it did. So I want to talk about just some breaking news. The biggest news being Daniel Dye indefinitely suspended. The Truck Series driver was suspended on March 17th. The guy was so much potential um, for mocking uh, David Malukas, I think, for a gay voice or something like that. And honestly, I don't know if he is or isn't. I follow Andy Carver pretty thoroughly, just like NASCAR. But it doesn't matter if he is or if he isn't. We're past that point, and those kind of jokes aren't acceptable. And we saw with Kyle Larson, even though it was not a homophobic slur or whatever you want to call it, toward the gay community, it was a kind of a racial slur, and he went through all that, and he bounced back. And maybe that'll happen with Daniel Dye. But this is just a disappointing story, and I want to say it's a black eye on the sport, because it's not. It's a black eye on a driver who had a lot of potential, and just to be where he's at in the Truck Series, and had a lot of opportunities. And I guess at some point you got to learn that every mic, every camera, everybody is always on, it's always open, and if something happens, you know, there's no turning back. So let's get your thoughts on Daniel Dye. He's indefinitely suspended. The Truck Series driver was suspended on March 17th. We haven't had a chance to talk since this happened for his insensitive gay voice comments made during a live stream. What are your thoughts?
Well, this isn't the first time that there's been an issue with Daniel Dye. Several years ago, there was an issue that came up with him. He was initially suspended. This was in high school, and he was racing at that time also. Uh, but there was an issue that came up when he was, I believe it was he was and somebody can correct me, either a junior or a senior at this point in high school, and there was some quote unquote roughhousing that came out of that. Daniel was suspended for that, and then initially he was charged with assault on another student. Now, NASCAR did suspend him at that time for that incident, but those charges, after investigation, further investigation, things like that, those charges were eventually dropped. And NASCAR did, remove his, indefinite suspension over that. But, that there is at least, some pattern that goes back over a number of years that have involved incidences with Daniel Dye. This one was during a a live stream in which him and some friends were, I guess everybody's now gotten onto this craze of opening up, years ago, and it's kind of like a side story to this. Years ago, is everybody went on YouTube to, um, watch people unpackage toys and things like that, and now it's all these live streams out there of unpackaging different products. And in this case, I believe it was baseball cards or some kind of trading cards that they were unpackaging in a live stream and talking about them. And these are where these comments kind of came up. Not just once, but I believe two or maybe three times that they came up throughout the live stream, the jokes that they had made. Um, these were not initially found by NASCAR. These were posted by somebody else, and then NASCAR got wind of it and then eventually suspended him.
Well, I don't know if this will be the end of Daniel Dye, but I hope, if anything, he's learned his lesson. And to me, if you are a NASCAR driving and you want to do a live stream, fine, so be it. But the word live stream, knowing that you're on a live stream, you should have enough common sense to know what you're. I don't know. I watched the video. It looked like it was just kind of came out in conversation, and almost as if he forgot that he was on a live stream and he was just joking around with some buddies. Still shouldn't be doing it. But I don't know. I mean, maybe you know better than I do. I don't know that this is the end of Daniel Dye, but you, I sure hope it's a come to Jesus moment. What do you think?
Well, NASCAR has implemented a process in which he has the opportunity to come back, just like Kyle Larson did. It's now on him to go through that process and satisfy NASCAR requirements to do so. And I don't think that there's any indication that he won't do this. He's got some serious money that is behind him in now what he has returned back to the truck series with Ram and with that deal that they put together with colleagues. So I don't think there's any indication that he won't come back. It's just a matter of time when, he will eventually come back.
And I know he issued and I think it's David Malukas, but at the IndyCar driver, but I know he did issue an apology, a public apology. So step in the right direction. So we shall see. I want to tie up a few loose ends and then we'll get into our races here. Alex Bowman, how's he doing? I know he was medically out for like 3 races, and Justice Allgaier was filling in for the number 48 team. Where we at with Alex Bowman?
Well, he will continue to sit out at this moment. There's continuing issues that come from this. He's going through protocols and things like that. Each week is from week to week, and then we've gotten these blocks of times. I think there's at least 2 or 3 more weeks that are still left in the current on him staying out of the car, and there'll be some more evaluations then.
What do we know about the pit crew suspensions? 2 members of Ross Chastain's number 1 team, Kenneth Bozega and Josh Albee, were suspended earlier this month for wheel detachment at COTA. What's where are we at with that?
That's just a one race suspension. With
Okay.
these tires coming off, NASCAR has just made it and implemented it to the point that they are ensuring that these teams are keeping the tires on. And we've kind of seen this with drivers and teams now, that when there's an issue with a tire and they think there's an issue with the tire, we're seeing this more of them willing to take these penalties of going to the rear by stopping in another box and having another team or another teammate, but uh, lock these tires in so that they aren't falling off, because these are critical kind of guys that are, you know they have their teams of people that practice in and out, and they don't want to have to change them up for so much. But that's just NASCAR's protocol on this, just to continue to enforce the safety standards.
All right, well, let's get into this week's action. They're in Martinsville. Today, I believe it's the NFPA 250. It's the O'Reilly Series. I'm still trying to learn how to say that. The NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Service, obviously formerly known as the Xfinity race over on the CW. I believe the race is at 3:30. Qualifying, I believe, is at 1:40 from what I see here. Or looks like qualifying was canceled due to rain, I believe, and the field was set by performance metrics. So we're not going to have qualifying at 140, or we are going to have qualifying at 140.
Cup Series qualifying is at 140. The Xfinity was last night when it rained out.
Okay, so you got Justin
I'm sorry,
Allgaier.
O'Reilly.
It's fine. I know exactly what you mean. So we've got Justin Allgaier on the pole, Raju Karuth second, Brandon Jones third, Brent Cruz fourth, and Carson Capelville fifth. Let's talk about this. Justin Allgaier, JR Motorsports, the current points leader, and last week's Darlington winner. He starts on the pole and is looking for a second straight win at the track where he has historically excelled. Justin Allgaier got himself in a good situation down there in Martinsville.
Look, Justin Allgaier is looking to extend this JRM streak that has gone back for weeks. They have had anybody and everybody going to victory lane over the last couple of weeks. It's been SVG, it's been Kyle Larson, Justin Allgaier, and so on. I mean, the JRM teams this week continue to want to extend that for believe that it will be now the 6th week if they win this time, or he wins, or any JRM driver wins this afternoon. So, Allgaier's, it looks like he's in the catbird seat at this moment, kind of driving this train, and and JRM is right there behind him as an entire team and an entire company. And that's why you also see Rajah Cruz sitting there on the outside beside him because of these performance metrics. In the 88 car in which SPG won earlier this year at Coda, and Nick Larson winning at Las Vegas in the series. So, those seem to be the dominant drivers right now when it comes to this series.
All right, let's talk about Austin Hill, the defending spring winner there at Martinsville. While he starts 26 due to the metric, he remains a major threat given his short track history. Austin Hill does very well in Martinsville.
Yeah, he may do well here, but it's been a couple of weeks where they've just had issues. Last week at
Mm-hmm.
Darlington, both him and Jesse Love and the RCR team spinning on pit road. There has been continuous issues for them that they have not started the season where they wanted to be at. Jesse Love was, at one point on top of these points, which has been taken over by Justin Allgaier, but the two of them since then they've kind of faded off. It was somebody that we thought that would go to Atlanta, win in Atlanta, didn't win in Atlanta, and it's just been a couple of weeks, for just real rough weeks for them, that they've just kind of had, that they are trying to overcome. And it's really showing that when you come to these races like today and you get rained out, you're going to start real deep in this field, and he's going to have to work that field an awful lot to be able to get up there to the front.
All right, now let's talk about this. Has been a story that we've been talking about for a while now. The Lee Pollum, his debut, the legendary late model driver, makes his highly anticipated series debut in the number 9 JR Motorsports Chevrolet today. What are your thoughts?
Lee is somebody that has been around the Mid-Atlantic for a long time and racing late models, and just about 5 years or so ago, just up and quit and stopped racing. But he owns Lee Pulliam Performance. Those are teams that are looked at time and time again in the late model world that bring some of the best cars to the racetrack, the best prepared teams that are there week in and week out. And Lee about 2 weeks ago went over to South Boston, re-debuted in a car, won that race over there in South Boston, and then comes into Martinsville this week. Yesterday in practice, leads the only practice of the day. And then, once again, thankfully, at least for him, he gets at least a halfway decent starting position thanks to that JRM team and that number
Right.
9 car that, has been, well represented this year. So it's a lot of eyes on him to be able to go out here and potentially make something of maybe a second coming of Lee Podium as a race car driver.
Well, I'm excited to watch him, and as you know, he's very well known, and so we'll see what happens. Let's talk about Chastain. He's making a series appearance in the number 91 DGM Racing NPO. Ross Chastain. He's got a dabble in the O'Reilly. Go ahead.
Yeah, he gets an opportunity to come back this week. Unfortunately, but, he does not get to play and ride the wall like he did a couple of years ago here at Martinsville. So I look for good things out
I
of
think
him
that's
as
what he's most
always.
well known for.
Yeah.
Is he also the watermelon guy?
Yes, he's also a
Yeah,
watermelon guy. They own a farm in South Florida that grow
yeah.
watermelons.
I love it. Uh, uh, when he was here in Indy for the Brickyard, somebody asked, "How many watermelons did you bring?" He said, "Oh, we've got enough." So, well, he's fun to watch. So, look, we're kind of keeping an eye also on Corey Day. He starts seventh, and Williams Followage starts 16th. Both of whom have shown significant speed early in 2026. We like these guys. What are your thoughts?
Corey Day is somebody that just a couple of weeks ago that there was a lot of wrecks out of him. He was wrecking not only his teammates but other people in the field, it kind of came out that there's a little bit of a coming to Jesus meeting with him and Dale Jr. and Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon, who has put a lot of stock into Corey Day being the next winner and the next star in the NASCAR series. And while they were out in the desert a couple of weeks ago, Corey Day goes over and runs in Kyle Larson Sprint Car Series, wins one of the nights out there. So he's got a lot of potential out here. And, for him, he just needs to kind of learn these cars a little bit more in and out. And I think he'll do okay. It's just a lot that come from running those smaller cars, higher horsepower into these big full bodied. So, I mean, he's learning and Rick Hendrick and Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon and everybody are still behind him, but they just continue to remind him that you have to take your time and learn these cars too.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's get into the Cup Series. Let's talk about last week's Goodyear 400 at Darlington. Tyler Reddick, the 23XI race, won from the pole, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Yeah, Tyler Reddick, Brad Kolowski, Ryan Blaney, Carson Hocevar, and Austin Cindric. Am I right on that from last week's Darlington?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he won from the pole, but at one point it didn't look like he was going to win. It
Oh no,
seemed to be
yeah.
kept. Yeah, it looked to seem to be Brad Keselowski's race, at least through some of the portions of the race. He led a race high of laps. Brad Keselowski did, but there in the end, Tyler Reddick just came and ran him down, and that was kind of it. For Reddick to take home his fourth win of the season.
At this point, I don't think we're going to have any questions on whether or not Tyler Reddick's going to get into the playoffs, but we shall see. Brad Kolowski, obviously, he swept both stages. Looking in his final years, maybe perhaps. What are we looking at with Brad Kolowski right now?
Well, tomorrow when he rolls off, it will be his 600th career race in the Cup Series, and he says that, earlier this week that he would like to try and make it to at least 800 starts in the series, and that would seem to indicate that there's at least 4, maybe 5 more seasons left for him that if he tries to make it to 800.
Wow, that's just an incredible accomplishment by itself. All right, we're going to go over to the Cookout 400 in Martinsville. I think the Cookout is a Southern thing. I have never been there. I passed it when I was in North Carolina, but I have some colleagues down in Tennessee, and they were talking about how they went to Cookout and had dinner or lunch or something, and the way they described the burgers and the shakes and stuff at the Cookout, the next time I'm down south, I gotta stop. Do you like cooking? Is it as good as everybody says it is?
Well, let me put it to you like this. There's at least one day per week that I end up with a shake from Cookout.
I
So
heard
if
that
that
with the
tells you
best
anything.
shakes. Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah, they have about 40 different shakes plus seasonal stuff that comes in
And you
Me,
like order a tray, like tray, and then the tray would be like burger and fries and shake. Is that how they do it, or something like that?
yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you can mix this thing up. There's burgers, there's hot dogs, there's wraps, there's fries, there's cheese sticks, there's all I'm sorry, there's like cheese curds, all kinds of stuff, and it comes with a drink. Or if you don't want the drink, you can switch it out for an
I
extra, I
love it.
think it is $1 and get a shake. So,
Uh,
hey, look, my tray is usually two hot dogs with just cheese only on them, and the chicken wrap, the spicy chicken wrap, and the cheese curds plus a shake. So
yeah, you're making me hungry, and it's only 11:30 in the morning on a Saturday here in Indianapolis. But it's the Cookout 400, but at Martinsville. So we're talking about cookout hot dogs. You got the cookout hot dogs, you got the Martinsville hot dogs. Uh, I don't know who comes out on the top there. A bag of
Mar-
Martinsville hot dogs or the cookout hot dog?
Martinsville.
How many? I usually wait this to the final question of the Martinsville race with you, but we're here now with it anyway. How many bags of hot dogs have you ate since you've been there this weekend?
Well, I haven't eaten any yet, but over the next 2 days, I'll probably eat 2 bags, which is I usually get four at the time. So somewhere between, and that doesn't count if I pick one up along my travels, and so somewhere between 8 and 10 over the next 2 days.
I'd be curious to have a fun fact of how many hot dogs they go through and what makes the Martinsville they're famous for it. What makes the Martinsville hot dog a Martinsville? What makes it so good?
Well, look, I'll have to see if I can find it again. But a couple of years ago, the track did say what their average number of hot dogs is. I'll have to see if I can track that
Okay.
down and see what they tell me, or if I can find it. If not, I'll see if I can find somebody that can give me an average. But I don't know. It's just this little pink grenade looking hot dog thing that uh, you can get with cheese and onions and
I love it.
coleslaw. And yeah, I don't know. It just is what it is. And we can buy those things in the market and food lines and Walmarts and Kroger's and stuff like
I'll
that.
have
They're
to
just
check that out.
Jesse. Yeah, they're Jesse Jones hot dogs. That's who produces them for the track. And they're I don't know, they're red. They got this red dye into. I don't think the red dye has anything to do with it, but that's the way I can describe them to people. They're just these red, pinkish colored, hot dogs that are just, I don't know. You throw some
I,
chili and stuff on them and you're
I
good to
love
go.
it. I'll have to see if I can find some at Walmart or something. All right, well, let's get back on track. No pun intended. There it is, the Cookout 400 at Martinsville. Smart Martinsville is a short track, so tempers are going to flare. It's less than a mile track, a short track. It's 400 laps, stages of laps that are 80, 180, and 400. The current standings, as we mentioned, Tyler Reddick has a commanding 95-point lead in the championship, following a dominant start to the season, as we already know. Let's talk a little bit about Ryan Blaney. He's the opening favorite in a two-time Martinsville winner. Ryan Blaney, obviously, we're still waiting to qualify this afternoon. But Ryan Blaney, what are your thoughts?
Look, I mean, he came into the season. He was able to put this thing and win in Phoenix a few weeks back, kind of solidifying his potential chase appearance later on this year. If he can work out some of these Penske issues. Him, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, they go into Las Vegas. They don't have the best day. They're running at the back. They're just a non-factor all day long. Where Joey Logano should have been the perennial favorite. Even Josh Berry, the defending winner of that race in a Penske prepared car, none of them just had anything for anybody that day. I think they have to be able to overcome these issues. That's where they need to fix these cars. I know they've had a little bit of some touch ups to the cars. Ford has, But to be that off as they were in Las Vegas, which is really abnormal, not only for Ford, but for Penske as an organization, especially coming off a win, not too long prior to that, a week prior to that at Phoenix. So um, I don't think that some of those necessary issues with the car will come into play at these short tracks because there's just not a whole lot of aero and things like that that they have to deal with. Ryan Blaney, I think Ryan Blaney just, and Penske as a whole, as long as they able to overcome some of those issues from a couple of weeks ago Las Vegas, that they'll be okay. Last week in Darlington, once again, you had RFK kind of leading the feat. You had RFK leading the charge over Penske. So, you got a team that is building up to the Penske kind of powerhouse, and they're the ones that are taking the charge right now. So once again, they've just got to find ways to overcome these issues where they are factors in. And even though that he may be the favorite, we saw this with Logano a couple of weeks ago in Vegas, and it was just a non-factor. So I think Penske right now needs to kind of figure out and get those cars back up to speed to be able to compete for these wins.
Talking with Steve Wilson, editor in chief of Speedway Digest .com, and our official NASCAR contributor down in Martinsville. We got a couple more drivers to run by you, and then we'll let you go, Steve. But Denny Hamlin, the defending spring winner at this track, has had an impressive 2026 season and a win in Las Vegas. Denny Hamlin, he's still around. He's still hanging in there with us.
Yeah, well, Denny Hamlin's days are numbered, and he said that his
Yes,
days are numbered. So, what his contract that he's in right now, that is it. When the 2027 season comes to a close, Denny Hamlin's career comes to a close. Now, he's got plenty of time between now and then to make up his mind whether he wants to change that or not. But, for all intents right now, at least, he's got 1.5 or so seasons left, and he's done with this. But that really hasn't seemed to slow him down with 23, his ownership in 23XI and what they're doing over there. I mean, he sat in the media center 5 weeks this year, either as an owner or a driver. So coming into these short tracks here in Martinsville, he's won numerous times here in his career. So for him, I know that it was pretty emotional to go and win in Las Vegas and have his family there and his
right,
mother there after everything that has happened.
right.
But I think if he comes to a place like here, Richmond is able to go to victory lane, I think those are going to be even more emotional moments because these are places that he grew up racing on, throughout his career and kind of his hometown tracks.
Yeah, that was pretty emotional to watch him get that victory and his mom come up and saying that's more. And of course, we know the story about the loss of his dad. How tragic was that? And then him to come back and get a win. So I totally agree. If he gets a couple more wins, it's going to be even more emotional. Let's talk about just a couple drivers here who've had some team changes. Connor Zillage, he's the rookie that moved up to the Cup Series with Trackhouse. He's now driving the number 88. What do we think about Connor Zillage so far in his rookie year?
Well, he's learning. It's definitely a stark difference from his 2025 season where he won a dozen races, and this year it's just he comes into these races, and even last week, he's pretty quickly one of the first cars to lap down at a place like Darlington, and um, he's learning, and I think that it will take him time to learn these tracks in these different style cars than the No App series. It's going to. I just think it's just going to take time for him.
So we haven't really seen anything exciting or earth-shaking from Daniel Suarez. He moved from Trackhouse to Spire Motorsports to he's driving the number 7 car. Daniel Suarez, he's just kind of I don't know. He's there, but he's not doing anything exciting, which to me is kind of disappointing, especially after this big news team change.
Well, I think with Daniel Suarez, you know, going from Trackhouse to Spire, Spire has always been seen to be they're still learning their way and still even though that they got Hendrick Hendrick support, they are still not of the caliber that the Hendrick teams are. Trackhouse, for them, you saw that what Ross Chastain and SVG were doing all last season, and once again, Daniel Suarez, outside of an Atlanta win, it was very lackluster. Kind of, you're right. He was kind of faded into the background, overshadowed by the SVGs and Ross Chastains over there. um, this year it seems to be Carson Hocevar that is really just overshadowing Daniel Suarez, and some of the things that, take a look at what, Hocevar did last week. He drove from the tail end of the field up there and finished second. So, there's a lot of potential there. But for Suarez, I think that if you look as a lateral from Trackhouse to where Trackhouse is right in this part of the year to where he is at Spire, there is at least a little bit of a bump as far as performance. But there's still some ways to go, and really, and unfortunately for Suarez, I think he's really being overshadowed a lot by what Carson Hocevar is able to do, and how even though Michael McDowell is really the veteran of that team, it seems to be that Carson Hocevar is really the star right now over at Spire. So everybody else kind of gets shifted into the background.
All right, one more final thought, and then we'll let you go about your day there down there in Martinsville. Um, Rick Rare Racing and Haas Factory Team have both switched from Ford to Chevy in the 2026 season. What are we thinking? How are they reacting to their new manufacturer?
Well, I think if you look at over at Haas, at least over in the No App series, between Sheldon Creed getting his first career win, Sam Mayer has been performing very well. On that side of the house, there's a lot of potential for those two. When it comes to the Cup side, there's still some, there's been some boost there because they've seen, from my understanding, they weren't getting the best of support from Ford. So there has been a boost in performance from Cole Custer's side. As far as Rick Ware is concerned, I don't know. I don't see, like, I'm not seeing much of a potential as far as a boost in performance by the switch.
Steve Wilson, editor in chief of Speedway Digest down in Martinsville. And so a lot of action going on there this week, but I do need your $5 DraftKings pick for the O'Reilly Auto Parts. And if you want to wait till after qualifying to give me your Cup Series, that's fine too. But who's your O'Reilly pick?
Uh, I think, Lord, I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier picking this thing back up again because, between JRM and where he's at this point, yeah, it's hard to bet against him.
Justin Allgaier, we got you down for the DraftKings $5 bet of the week. Steve, we always appreciate you and what you bring to the show. Where can people find your work and masterpieces, sir?
You can follow us at Speedway Digest on X, Facebook.com/Speedway Digest, and SpeedwayDigest.com.
All right, Steve, we appreciate you. Have a good race weekend.
Thank you, man.